Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show, Crosstalk. Well, to no one's surprise yesterday, Peter, the Biden administration has announced sanctions on Cuba because Cuba is cracking down on dissenters. That's a terrible thing to do.
And what else do you do to Cuba except for sanction it? But keep
That's
going.
right. Exactly. So this in this announcement, the usual stuff. Oh, it's going to be targeted individual sanctions against Cuban regime officials. And one of the sanctions target involves Alvaro Lopez Mira, the head of the armed forces in Cuba, and the Cuban Ministry of Interior Special National Brigade. Biden says this is just the beginning. The United States will continue to sanction individuals responsible for the oppression of the Cuban people. He also promises he's going to deliver the internet to the Cubans.
At the same time that Jen Psaki is suggesting that Americans be denied access to the internet.
Yes, I think so. That's right. Exactly. So it's a very, very interesting situation. So at the moment, we have this crackdown on the the people who were involved on January the 6th. Grannies, with their canasta glasses.
Veterans.
Veterans. Nice elderly people. Also school teachers. Regular people. The FBI is going around the country, flying around on public money, arresting these people. So something like almost 600 people have now been arrested. So massive trials that are going to go on well into next year. So we got that. And as you say, we've got Jen Psaki, who said that the administration is going to be intervening with SMS providers because people are spreading misinformation. They're also pressuring Facebook and Twitter to take misinformation off. And let us never forget, when it comes to human rights abuses, that the United States has Guantanamo Bay. It is on the island of Cuba. And what's at Guantanamo Bay? Well, all the people who were gathered up during the War on Terror 20 years ago. They've been sitting there for 20 years awaiting trial on the island of Cuba.
At least they have healthcare.
Yeah, exactly. So it sounds very, very strange for the Biden administration to be talking about repression and the crackdown on human rights when the American record is as abysmal as it is. Some people are gleeful. Marco Rubio, Menendez, New Jersey, for once I remembered his name, are all clapping their hands. No remittances, of course. That's gone. Where is this going? I mean, you've had 60 years of embargo that hasn't got anywhere. Why would one think that these sanctions? Well, I guess sanctions have a kind of a momentum of their own. When you have no ideas about anything, let's just go.
That's it. And when you don't know what to do, sanction. Okay. I think the Biden people are in a real quandary because part of the Democratic caucus is quite critical of the American record vis-a-vis Cuba for the last 60 years, and then some of them are ideologically more disposed to the type of political and economic system in Cuba. So the Biden people are in a bit of a bind there. But then there's that state called Florida, okay? And then I don't know about you, George, but as soon as I knew Hannity was having a town hall in Florida, I skipped the program. There was no reason to watch it, okay? Right. But so, and the issue of remittances is actually still on the table. It's still being discussed because this was something that happened under the Obama administration. So this is kind of a push and pull, and really what they want is to control the narrative. They want to control the way people talk about it. It's not necessarily a policy-driven one. However, because of the Marco Rubios of the world, we have the West Virginia Representative Alex Moni, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but he's proposing to the Trump administration, and this will sound eerily,
Biden administration.
I'm sorry, Biden administration, this will be very eerie for you because it should remind you of something. They're proposing the following here. This is on the American Conservative. Three points. One, ensure delivery of humanitarian aid to the people of Cuba, including but not limited to food, water, and medicine. Number two, create a safe zone in Cuba for the Cuban people to safely receive humanitarian aid. Number three, prevent humanitarian aid from being stolen by the Cuban government or its forces. Does this ring any bells to you?
Right. Well, of course, I know the Cubans aren't going to go for it. But remember, I mean,
but my point is, this is what they're saying to the Syrians. Okay,
right.
Basically, dissolve your sovereignty, and then we'll take care of you. Right. Oh, and don't worry about the guys in military uniforms and guns. Okay, they're only there to deliver peaches. Okay, right. No, I mean, this is obviously a forced regime change gambit. Okay.
Yeah, of course. I mean, look. I mean, the Western humanitarian or U.S. humanitarian aid is.
Where's Samantha Power when you need her?
Right. But again, incidentally, also, there's kind of an interesting question. I mean, remember when the United States said that, oh well, we'll bring all these people from Cuba into the United States, during the Mariel boat lift. Well, that kind of blew up in the American space. When Castro said, "Okay, fine. Well, we'll just get rid of all our criminals and all of our social undesirables. You want them? You got them." It was an absolute calamity. I mean, the full scale of it has never really been reported because, I mean, the famous film Scarface kind of touched on it, but it affected crime in Florida for the next several decades. I mean, there's something like 125,000 people actually came from Cuba, the worst elements. So you want to be a little bit careful when you say, "Oh, we're on the side of the Cuban people. Come here, we're welcoming you into this great land of freedom." That can really blow up seriously in your face.
The amount of people that left Cuba that were criminals or had mental health issues and all that, they came up with the phrase because it was during the war on drugs simultaneously. Right. The murder rate, death rate was so high that they started calling the deceased Dixie cups because they were disposable.
Yes.
Okay, that's the intensity of it all here.
Yeah.
No, I mean, again, just to kind of top off, the Biden administration has found itself in a real bind because the Democratic Party doesn't have a single mind about dealing with it. But Florida is a must win.
Right, but I don't think the Florida thing is important in this case because I don't think the Democrats really count on Florida anymore. I mean, I think it was in play
we'll see.
A couple of decades ago. Trump won both times very comfortably in Florida. I think it's much more that people like Biden and Blinken, I mean, they're really into this whole values, democracy versus dictatorship. I mean, this is meat and drink to them. I mean, the national security strategic directive, whatever it was called, that they published earlier this year. It's all about this great global war between democracy and dictatorship. I think they really believe all this. That doesn't mean that they're ready to go to war, but they do believe that this is somehow America, authoritarianism is on the march and only America stands between the triumph of authoritarianism. So I think that's what it's really
about. I certainly think that they see what they believe. I don't know if it's actually true. What they believe is happening in Cuba is a possible opening to the long-awaited prize of Cuba. Okay, I think that's fantasy. Personally, and it's not a popular policy within the hemisphere, except for a few extreme right-wing governments the U.S. supports, talking about autocracy and democracy. The interesting thing is that at the end of the day, and it's been an issue all during our life, is that Cuba is a thorn in the side of American foreign policy elites, and nothing has really changed. Okay, I mean. For me, it's just really obvious. Drop all of the sanctions, okay? Just drop them, okay? I mean, if you care about the Cuban people, drop the sanctions, okay? Personally, I don't think there would have been a Castro dynasty if there had if the sanctions had never been put into place. I really think it would have that would have changed, gone through many iterations. But because it gave a focus for Castro's revolution, America, the imperialists, that they gave them an enormous staying power.
Well, I think, at least back, when this was imposed, this is late 1950s, early 1960s, the world was such that there was real belief that there's a Cold War, a struggle against global communism taking place everywhere. And they thought Castro will have a devastating impact on the rest of Latin America. I mean, they're all going to take the communist model. I mean, this was the domino theory in Latin America. So they wanted to isolate Castro. What was bizarre was that they continued with this policy even after the Soviet Union collapsed, and even after the Soviet Union basically couldn't provide any assistance. I mean, the Soviet Union was basically, was bankrolling Cuba for decades. But once, under Gorbachev, they said, we can't afford it anymore. I mean, that would have been the moment to, just to say, hell, that's it. The embargo is at an end. But they didn't do it. It's like, it's a thorn in the side. It just infuriates the United States that Cuba.
Well, I mean, you could make the same argument when the Warsaw Pact was dissolved. Well, get rid of NATO. We don't need it anymore. Okay, the reason for it to exist. I mean, there were so many missed opportunities with the end of the Cold War. Truly missed opportunities, and it all originates in Washington and Western capitals. Okay, primarily Washington. It's used a lot, and I really am disappointed when George H. Bush talked about a new world order, which of course that term has been so abused since then. Is that, Mr. Bush, there could have been a reimagining, but we missed that opportunity, and it wasn't an opportunity. Those choices weren't forced on you; they were choices.
That's right. That's right. But of course, the New World Order, what he meant was U.S. supremacy, a kind of a unilateral or unipolar
and benign,
run by run by the United States and its various lackeys. I mean, he proclaimed this, I think it was end of 1990, the first Gulf War, and they kind of did define the 1990s. There is basically a unipolar world run by the United States. If you dare defy it, you are in a lot of trouble. But doesn't exist anymore. But right now, all it is a kind of extraordinary spitefulness toward Cuba. I mean, when you think of when Hannity did that, when he goes down to.
Did you watch it?
I saw a little bit of it. I couldn't.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, it's awful, and all these grandstanding politicians. But at the same time, you think, why are you doing this? I mean, it's like, when you think of how, the extent of the problems in the United States, when you think of, the threats to freedom, from the government, from big tech, everything else, this is what you're worried about. I mean, it's like, it's just so bizarre that you're still kind of worried about, oh my God, Cuba, what are we going to do about Cuba? What do you care?
I don't have an answer for you, George. It's just on their brain, okay? Right. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, like 20 years ago, you had a fight with your sister, and you had a fight, but you don't remember what the fight was about, okay? Right. And it's just a way of being, of living, okay? And of course, you have a lot of emigres that, again, Florida is important. Maybe I shouldn't have stressed, and I think you're right, presidential, but I mean, a lot of congressional districts too, and things like that. I mean, it does work, okay? I mean, because you and I have consistently talked about when conservatives, Republicans talk about socialism and all that, it just doesn't ring for people, okay? It does in certain congressional districts, okay? I give you that. But on a national scale, people just kind of glaze over, okay? So, and the same thing, being pro-capitalist. How many people talk about capitalism? People talk about enterprise, enterprise.
Right,
okay?
right. But I mean, well, that's very interesting because, there's this Mark Levin who's just written this bestseller.
I saw him.
And it's all kind of bizarre. I mean, who are these people, who are talking about Marxism? I mean, I don't know. I mean, but it just seems so strange to be worrying about, Marxism. I mean, it's like, the idea of, well, are people really discussing the theory of surplus value?
Okay. We're a little going afield here.
We
but
are,
I think, but we'll finish on this because I think you bring up a really, really good point, and it's something I've kind of stressed on Crosstalk, is that I'm for enterprise. I love entrepreneurs, okay? But I don't like government picking winners, and that's what they do, okay? But, when we think about Mark Levin, the thing is that I don't think it's so much people are pro-Marxist at all and pro-socialism. Oh, I don't think most people think in those terms. But what people do understand and feel with every passing day is how this current system does not work for them. And I think people like Mark Levin interpret that as being pro this and pro that. I don't think that's necessarily so. People just say, the system isn't working for me. And it didn't work for my father, and it started with my grandfather, okay? I think that's the way. And that's why I think these slogans don't really ring bells with people. Because when Trump went through the heartland in 2015, 2016, he saw these shuttered factories. And he said, we're going to rebuild. See, that's something people understand.
Well, I think that's the point.
See that empty factory? We're going to work. We're going to do that. Now talk about.
That's what they understand. What they don't understand is when you talk about the threat from socialism and the threat from Marxists, because that's what Levin is talking about. And Trump, to a certain extent, did that in the election. That it doesn't work. It just falls flat. Now, I think Levin obviously has his relatively small kind of coterie of admirers who buy his book, but it just doesn't work. I mean, it's like, you tell people there's a real threat, Marxists are about to take over. It doesn't work. And that's why I don't think these, even now with this whole thing of, banging the drum about Cuba, it isn't working. I mean, this is, you might have worked in 1973, but people aren't. I mean, even on the right, people are saying, "Oh, for heaven's sake, aren't there enough problems that Americans have to worry about? That we have to worry about what the hell's going on in Cuba." So it's not even working on the right. I mean, I think there's some neocons who preoccupy themselves, and people like Hannity and Mark Levin, but no one else is.
But you already brought it up previously, and what I think is really funny, how much Hannity and all these people, they're praying and they're on their knees hoping for freedom for the Cuban people. Just don't come here.
No. Yes, exactly. Hey, let's get the boats out. Sail the 90 miles to Florida.
The perennial problem called Cuba, and it was made in America. And my heart goes out to the Cuban people. I mean, considering how much they've been embargoed and sanctioned, and now they've been hit by the pandemic like everybody else, and trading flows and everything.
Well, I think that's it. That really is the heart of it, is that the pandemic, and it hit tourism. I mean, basically, Cuba makes money on tourism, and so any place that makes money largely of tourism, and tourism has just been devastated of the. This is the second summer that has been destroyed by.
Did it have systemic problems in 1960 different from 1980, different from 2000, and then 2000? I mean, give me the evolution here, folks. Okay, and that's why this is a rhetorical opening for some people to show their credentials, pander to people, and of course, another little war. What could go wrong, George?
Yeah.
All right, everybody, we're on Locals.
Mhm.
We're on Locals, so type in thegaggle.locals.com. George and I, in a few minutes, will be doing a Zoom chat with the Gaggler. The Gaggle
Gaggler is
store.
Eric Hunley, who's a
Okay.
colleague of ours on Locals, who also
Okay. We're a community working with other communities.
exactly.
So the Gaggle store is up. There's some cool stuff. We're working on a Q&A, and live streaming is imminent, which we're looking forward to.
Exactly. And we have a tip jar, and we would very much appreciate any help that you can offer there. I think Buddy's now got, oh no,
This is Robbie.
Robbie. I think Robbie has unfortunately been pushed out of the tip jar. There just isn't enough in it for him as well. So if you contribute, then maybe Robbie can get his dibs in as well. And remember, if you like the Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.